Hi, I'm Abby McEnany, and I'm in studio with The Hollywood Reporter.
So Abby, it's been a year now since Work in Progress was at Sundance.
Right. Yeah. We found out we got into Sundance the Monday of Thanksgiving last year.
Oh.
And then Sundance was, I think, the last week of January of this year. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how does it feel to finally be debuting the show to a wider audience?
Somebody reached out to me today like, hey, how are you doing? And I always say, like, I'm so grateful. I'm terrified. I'm excited. It's amazing. I still don't believe it's happening, because I've never, worked on a professional thing, like TV before.
Right.
And I just look around and I'm just really, really grateful. And I legit can't believe it.
How did it go? I mean, that first, you said you're kind of filming a television show for the first time, and you're, in every scene. You're the star of the show.
Yeah. I have to say, so we were so lucky, that we were able to write, film, and do post-production. Everything's in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I think I really pretty... very open about how inexperienced and new I am to all of this, and the crew that we had on set, some of the best people in the world, and I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing, and they would teach me, they're like, I don't know, I just learned so much, and it was really I felt so well taken care of, not only by Tim and Lily, but my fellow actors, some who have been my dear friends for a long, long time, and then the crew was just amazing. So as well, it went as well as it could, I think,
What was it like to collaborate with Louie Wachowski and Tim Mason, and how did they collaborate with your show?
Right. So, Tim and I, we wrote the pilot and co-created the pilot together. Mm-hmm. So we wrote it and filmed it last year and submitted it to Sundance, and that was just us. Now, coincidentally, Lily and I have been friends in Chicago for about 3.5 years. I know their partner. I've known their partner, Mickey, for several years, over 20 years. And now Lily was sort of like, what are you working on? And I told her, and I had sent her a clip. She was like, wow, cool. And then, funnily enough, our executive producers that signed on with us work with Circle of Confusion, and Lily is represented by Circle of Confusion, and so it was all this stuff happened. It was very kismet, work together. And so once we started, she signed on and was like, yeah, this sounds fun. I'll executive produce, and it's awesome. And then the three of us co-wrote the rest of the 7 episodes together.
So tell me a little bit about collaborating with Julia Sweeney. Having Julia Sweeney on the show is kind of an important part of the plot.
It is. I gotta say, she is phenomenal. She's a great human being, and of course hilarious. And so she's been generous with us from the get-go. We reached out to her. We had written her into our pilot, and we were about to shoot. We're like, well, we better get in touch with her. So, and she was living in Chicago at the time. She was working on she was workshopping a solo show that she was doing called Older and Whiter at Second City, and Tim and I had both worked with Second City before, and he reached out to one of the producers, who reached out to Julia, and sent the therapist clip and something else that Tim had written and directed, and she wrote back right away, and we met her. She's like, I'll do anything for the show. I'll do the lighting. I'll do makeup, whatever. And she's been incredibly giving and generous and willing to talk about stuff.
So in the show, you have a very frank conversation about your love interest, played by Theo Germain, gorgeous Theo Germain.
Yes.
So you and your friends have this kind of frank conversation, and there's a lot of kind of gender misidentity and confusion.
Yes.
I'm a trans man.
I haven't been out with an attractive trans man in ever, so.
Are you a little concerned about how Twitter is going to react to a show that will discuss that?
Well, it's funny because I'm not nervous about any reaction of our subject matter. Mm-hmm. I think people might see that scene and be like, oh, it's offensive because of the misgendering. I'm not, honestly, whatever happens about, if people, they don't want to see a show about an old woman, a fat woman, a queer woman, whatever. Yeah. I don't care about that. I think what's important, we wanted to show that it's not just, when I met, my real ex-boyfriend, Alex, who's lovely, I did misgender him. as the hottest baby dyke on the face of the planet. And then when he told me he was a trans man, I was like, okay. And it didn't, so that thing in the pilot, this is like, okay. It wasn't something like, oh God. But it was sort of, people they don't understand stuff, right? And I learned and like still learning and whatever. So we wanted to show that it's not like, oh, everybody's on board right away, because that's not reality. And just show that kind of learning curve. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine, we were at brunch and she was like, are you ready for people to say you got stuff wrong? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure we did, right? And also there's no way you're gonna please everybody, and I'm telling a story from my point of view, and I'm just trying to be as genuine and real as possible, and be open. Like, people who stop listening and trying to be better, it's like, what are you doing?
Let's talk a little bit about anger in comedy.
Ooh, I'm interested to see what comes next in that question.
Do you think there's a double standard between men and women when it comes to expressing their anger in comedy?
I think in life, I mean, I don't know if it would be different in comedy. I think, like a woman's angry and they're standing up for themselves, or unruly and not a team player and a bitch and like demanding, and we expect, and it's like, and you get shut to the side or whatever. And then if men are angry, they're like, everybody's like trying to get in line and like, oh, he's so strong, he's making things right.
After Hannah Gatsby's Netflix special, there was a conversation to be had about self-depreciating humor and what it means to people. What were the conversations being had within your circles?
We didn't have any conversations about that, because like I did that storytelling show, and there was like real life stories, and Hannah Gatsby is a hero of mine, and she that Nanette was groundbreaking, and I looked up the clip where she talks about how she won't do that to herself anymore, and I was like, wow, that's so powerful, and I'm not there, right? Like, I think that is a goal, right? To not put myself down. I think it's how I've survived this long, and I know it's like, and she's so she says it so beautifully, like, and powerfully, and it's just like, I mean, so many times during that special, I was like, chills, like, tears, and also brilliantly funny and honest and raw. I'm not there. It would be lovely. It's like one of those things, I don't see myself ever getting there, but it's a goal.
For queer folk who may be seeing themselves on screen for the first time, what do you hope that they get out of it? I feel like you kind of already answered that.
I think, yeah, I mean, we really wanted to show like what queer life is, and the queer life that I see and that Lily sees, that like in our communities, we wanted to show, like, I think in a lot of shows, and again, not all shows, like, I'm never saying we're breaking ground. I mean, I hope, whatever, I'm never going to be that person. But I would say in a lot of shows, it's like, oh, if you have a queer character, it's like, oh, it's a queer character. But we don't see a lot of queer or trans or like gender nonconforming folks as your Lyft driver, or as your barista, your bartender, your waiter, in the background. Like, like Lily was like, it's very important that we people are set. And what people see with queer folks and trans folks and gender nonconforming folks, because that's what our life is. It's not just the three, like, it's not just me, Theo, and Celeste, right? Who play queers that are like, it's like everybody.
So last question to you, Abby. It's been so lovely having you here.
I really can't believe it. Thank you so much.
So I asked this to a lot of filmmakers. If you could hand deliver a copy of your work to one person, who would it be?
Okay, so I have this thing about like celebrities or actors or writers that I really admire, and I kind of never want to meet them because it's scary. Like, what if they're a jerk or they think I'm an asshole? Understandably. So I will answer, and this sounds a little schmaltzy, but my mom, who died 2005, and a lot of this has been, my dad's alive, and it's so fun. Like, a lot of it, I'm like, it's so great that I think for like, I don't know, for this year, he's like, oh, she can afford insurance, she can pay her rent, I don't have to worry about it. It's been so great. I was like, Dad, he listened to this radio thing I did. I was like, did you hear me call you out about how I was excited that you knew that I could pay for my insurance and not on my credit card? So I think my mom, and a lot of this has been like, I think I was talking to my sisters and my dad. It's like, that to me has been sad that she wasn't She didn't see it happen, but boy, she believed in me, and that is a gift you can't surpass that gift,
That's
right?
wonderful.
To have that.
Yeah.
So
I will never be
I'm this fat, struggling queer dyke, and that is my identity.
dirt-free.
My life is harder than anybody else's. Thanks for this opportunity. It's so nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you too.
Thanks.
Work in Progress is on Showtime.